The New York Football Giants are massive winners from this schedule release. It is a huge gift from the NFL. Honestly, it feels like they got away with highway robbery here. I'm going to break down the whole schedule and all the different advantages that I see from the Giants. But before I get going, if you haven't already, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and then you can become a part of this awesome Giants community. So, a couple, I guess, ground rules before I get going about the Giants schedule here is we already knew every opponent. And for a last place team last year, it's a pretty challenging schedule with some of the opponents they have to play. They got a tough matchup having to play the entire NFC West division this year. Obviously, like some of the teams that finished last place that they got matched up with, like the Lions, like that wasn't, they got pretty unlucky with that one. So, like, yes, it's a tough schedule. But we already knew what it was. I'm looking for what advantages did they get on the way the schedule played out. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So, first things first, 5 of their first 6 games are incredibly winnable. Like, obviously, at the Rams, that's a tough one. But home against the Cowboys, home against the Titans, home against the Cardinals, and then at the Commanders, and then home against the Saints. It's not hard to see this team going 5-1 to start the year. And what incredible buzz will there be in New York if this team is 5-1? Even if they come out 4-2 from this stretch, like that would be a huge start to the year. I think it's super realistic. And then what I think is important too is like the beginning of the season will be interesting because in some ways I think they'll have an advantage because it's a new system. There's no tape on it yet. It's going to be hard for defenses to prepare. If you've caught this show before, you've heard me say many times, both on offense and defense, the way their personnel is, they're going to be able to disguise things so much. And with no film on it, I think that'll be an advantage early in the season. But at the same time, it's possible Malik Neighbors misses a few games or is at least still getting up to speed. They'll probably still be working out some of the kinks of being in a new system. So having these new games early on, or these easier games early on, is big. And then at the end of the season, they definitely finish with a tougher schedule, but they'll get to do that as a seasoned team who's played the entire year and is hopefully humming on all cylinders with a 100% healthy Malik Neighbors and Cam Scadaboo. So I'm happy to see that their first 5 of their 6 games are winnable. Then some of these individual games early on, I see big time advantages. So I made a little slideshow here for us to look at so I didn't forget the different things I saw. So week 1, the Rams play in Australia. And obviously I think it's a Thursday night game and then their Monday night against the Giants. So they do get like 11 days rest. But still, coming back from Australia, like that's not easy. If you've ever been to Australia and have dealt with the jet lag, comment below. Tell people what it's like. I've known a couple people who have gone, and it's rough, like coming back from that. Because, like, some of these, like, even like London is difficult, but at the end of the day, it's 5 or 6 hours. Unless you're West Coast, then it's like 9 hours. But it's not that big of a time difference. Australia is a big time difference. Like, that is something that sometimes can take people like a week to get adjusted to. So I like, even though they get the extra rest, I like getting the Rams coming back from their Australian game. Then in week 5, their big game against the Commies. They get the Commanders coming after their London game. No extra rest in there for them. So that's big time too. Like last year, we watched that Giants-Broncos game after the Broncos came back from London. And I know the Broncos ended up winning. The game still makes me sick to my stomach. But that was a team that came out very sluggish. The London, like I just said, it's not as big of a time difference as Australia, but it's still with no extra rest in there. That's not easy coming back from. So I like that. And then again in week 7, they get the Texans coming back from their London game. Get rid of, not London game. I'm going to get some funny comments for that one. But I like that too. And it's like if they can shock the Texans with the Texans coming back from London and go into their bye week 5-2, 6-1, that would be huge. And then I love, one of their toughest games they're going to have this year is that road game against the Eagles, and they get that after their bye week. So I really like seeing that as well. The schedule definitely gets tougher from here. You got at the Eagles, then home against the Commanders, home against the Jaguars. But that Jaguars team, that Commanders game is a Thursday night football game. Both teams play Sunday, so nobody's going to have an advantage in terms of the short rest there. But then when they play the Jaguars, the Giants will have gotten 10 days of rest before they get that like mini bye week. And that's, when you look at the schedule, that's kind of one of those coin flip games where it's like, the Jaguars were pretty good last year. They weren't the Rams, they weren't the Seahawks, but they were a playoff team. But at home with that extra rest, that could be a situation where the Giants are able to beat a playoff team and add an extra win to their schedule. Now, I do have to add one of the one things I didn't love is the Colts get that same situation with the Giants week 12. The Colts have a week 11 Thursday night football game, so they will get that mini bye week before playing the Giants. Looking at the rest of the schedule, week 13, they play the 49ers. Should be a pretty normal standard game there. I like that it's at home. That's honestly another one of those teams. Like, you look at that NFC West, and it's like, okay, Seattle and the Rams, those are going to be tough. The 49ers, they might be beatable. And, that electrical facility is going to wear and tear on their team. They might be pretty beaten up by week 13. You get a home game there. Maybe you can knock off the 49ers. And then that week 14 game against the Seahawks, if you saw it here. The Seahawks are Monday Night Football the week before, so they will be coming on like a little bit shorter rest. And then the Giants do have that same. So pardon my voice, by the way. I work in a school, so I talk all day long. My voice is getting weak today, so thanks for bearing with me. Week 17, they will only have 6 days rest as they play at the Cowboys. But what I do think is interesting is they end the year Monday Night Football for the Lions, Cowboys, which will be a big-time game, and then against the Eagles. Like, those are 3 potential playoff teams, at least one of them in prime time. I'm sure they'll be looking at that Eagles game as a primetime team. But a lot of times, teams they don't expect to make the playoffs, they match up. Like, if you saw the Giants end the season with, like, Titans, Cardinals, Commanders, that would tell you that the NFL thinks the Giants will be eliminated at that point. But the fact that they end this season with Monday Night Football against a potential playoff team, the Cowboys, and then the Eagles instead of the Commanders, like, they are making a bet that they think the Giants and Eagles could be battling for the division right there. And I think that tells you all you need to know about the NFL's opinion of the Giants this year. And then one other thing I noticed, this entire season, the Giants don't play a single team coming off a bye week, and that's pretty big time too. I also thought this was interesting. Yeah, pardon my voice again. So 5 teams, a lot of the teams that picked around the Giants this year, 0 primetime games. Oh yeah, here they are right here. The Browns and the Saints, 1 primetime game. This is like the majority of your top 10 picks. Danny Dimes and the Colts, only 2. 3 primetime games, you start to get some playoff teams in here. You get, the Broncos, the Jaguars, like the Bengals with Joe Burrow, the Chargers, the Buccaneers. Like, these are teams that they have beneath the Giants in primetime games. And then they have the Giants up there with the Ravens, the Lions, the Texans. So I think that's a compliment to how the NFL views the Giants this year. So you guys comment below. I tried to get this piece together as quickly as I could so I could put out a video. Let me know if there's something I missed. If there's something in the schedule that you were like, ooh, that's a big time advantage for the Giants, or something that you didn't like. Let me know what I missed. I always like hearing from you guys. Give me a record prediction. I'll do a quick one real quick. So I'm going to just kind of go through. I think they're beating the Cowboys week 1. I love that they're coming back from Australia there, but I feel like I'm a homer if I pick the Giants at maybe the Super Bowl favorite. So 1-1. I think they beat the Titans. I think they beat the Cardinals. I think they beat the Commies both times this year. I think they beat the Saints. I really think they're 5-1 to start the year, and then I think that's a winnable game right there against the Texans. These two tough games, two potential playoff teams, two games on the road, but you get the Texans coming back from London, and then you get a bye week from the Eagles. I don't think it's crazy to think at a minimum they split those games and can be 6-2. Like I said, I think they beat the Commies both times. I think they beat the Jags. 8-2 is very possible through week 11. Then the schedule gets a little tougher. There's always a game that's weird. Like, I think the Giants are perfectly capable of beating the Colts, but we'll say Colts with the extended rest on the road for the Giants. I'll give that to the Colts. 8-3. But I think the Giants can beat the 49ers at home. I'm going 9-3. I'll have them lose to the Seahawks 9-4. I'll have them beat the Browns 10-4. I think I'll have them lose to the Lions and go 10-5. But then you're talking, they win one of these games, they're 11-6, probably a playoff team. I think they easily could win both. I think they're that good. So I think 11-6, 12-5 is well within the realm of possibilities looking at their schedule. You guys, let me know what you think. I did want to bring up one more thing if my voice lets me survive. Sorry for having to endure my voice through this video. But I don't know who saw Thaddeus Dixon went down today, tore his Achilles. That sucks. He was an undrafted free agent, but one that a lot of people thought would be like a 4th or 5th round pick. So stinks to see him go down. Who knows what his career will be after this. Tough to see. It looks like they're bringing in a couple guys to maybe go to the practice squad, but it is what it is. It happens. That's the NFL. At least it was an undrafted free agent and not one of our top guys, but what can you do? Anyways, you guys comment below. Let me know what you missed. Give me some record predictions, and I'll have some more things to say about the schedule in the upcoming days, hopefully with a little bit stronger of a voice. But thank you guys for sticking through this voice, and I will catch you with some more Giants content soon.